San Francisco 49ers doing a number on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 10. How did that happen? Trent Williams, impactful return, getting pressure up front, getting back to that 49ers football, the complimentary version we saw in the early part of the season. And Brock Purdy now among the league leaders in numerous categories. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers out there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the new 24-hour Locked On Sports Today channel on YouTube. And we'll give you more info in the very near future about where else to find that stream and 24-hour channel of Locked On football shows and Locked On everything 24 hours a day. Big things happening here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Super excited for that. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50+ infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Croc, I wanted to start with Brock Purdy, but first I have to ask you a question about your own playing career. You were a former defensive back. I know football guys are, big and tough, and they like to talk a big game. They like to let people know how awesome they are after they make a play, let you know if you're little, and like, you're little, I'm big. I love hearing your story actually about 7-year-olds playing basketball.
Did you read that?
Dude, that was hilarious. That was fantastic.
I don't, and this is not part of the question, by the way, for anybody listening, but my daughter, she's playing basketball in this kind of like this developmental league for like 7-year-olds. And it's awesome. You see them run around and they're figuring out how to play. And, sometimes they'll travel and, all that stuff. Well, some kids are a little bit more advanced. And one kid, he's like hit a jumper in my daughter's face. Then he did the like, you're too little symbol. And oh man, I don't say anything at these games. I usually kind of sit there, and every once in a while I'll say an encouraging word. But that had me hot. My wife, she sees me filming. She's like, you got to go say something to her. So I went over. I walked onto the court during a break, went to my daughter, and I whispered to her, I don't care if you score another point. I do not care. That boy right there, the one with the white long sleeve on, he does not score. You do not let him score. By any means, you run, you hustle, you grind. If you foul him, I don't care. He does not score. And he scored one more basket when she wasn't on him. But anytime he got the ball out, go get him, stop him. And she played tremendous defense. So I was really proud of Pickle with how she picked up the intensity, and no points, no more points.
Heck yeah. Way to go, Pickle. Not backing down. And where I was going with this question, Croc, is in your playing career, did you ever run away from a blocker? Seeing big 71 Trent Williams out in front on a Christian McCaffrey run. And I don't know if I've ever seen it. I think it was number 31 on, I'm blanking on who that was on the Jaguars defense. Dude literally just turned his back to Trent, and I don't know where he was going, what technique he was trying to use to try to make a play. He didn't even dive at his legs and try to make him turn the run back inside or anything. He retreated. And I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. That would have been a time when Trent Williams would be, it would be very apt for him to give the "you're too little" sign after that block, because that guy didn't want any part of Big Trent coming. I can't blame him. I wouldn't want any part of Big Trent. Have you ever done that and shown a blocker the back numbers and retreated from him during a football game, Croc? And would that get you benched in the film room? Because I imagine that would be something that is currently being replayed in Jacksonville numerous times on the film board.
The one thing about playing football at a high level, collegiate, NFL, or any league, they understand what's on the other side. Like the people in that building understand what that feels like to have to take a guy like Trent Williams head on. So they might not be as hard. The coach, he's going to have to coach. He's got to tell him, hey, I don't care. I need you to do this. You have to execute. Now, I definitely wanted to touch on this, and I kind of put a tweet out about it, but it was different when I was playing. When I was playing, when the offensive lineman was pulling like that, you could what we call wrong shoulder him. So you kind of come from the outside in, basically dive into his legs to kind of chop him down, and it forces the run back inside, right? Well, now that's a flag. You can't do that anymore. So no, I never ran away from an offensive lineman. I typically would just go and try to cut him down. But if I played in today's day and age, I can't say that I would not have done the same thing as number 31 because I'm not taking Trent Williams on head on. Like I'm not. Like that is that's out. That's all the way out. Like he's too fast. He had a head like a full head start. Like there's no way you get him moving in that direction. And I've had to take on some offensive linemen that could move well and could move well in space. They were not Trent Williams. Like they were not, whatever he is. I don't even know how big he is, but he looks like he's about 340, like 6'5", 340, if I had to just guess off the top of my head. And he's one of the most athletic guys in the NFL. So have I ever ran away from a pulling tackle or guard? No. Would I have ran away from Trent Williams? I can't say that I would not have.
You could tell there's some sort of calculus going on in that DB's head too. He's like, okay, well, what am I going to do here to thwart this block? And he ended up just turning his back to him, and then but his momentum was taking him away. I don't know if he's going to try to hit him with his back. I don't know what he was going to try to do, but it was not effective, whatever it was. I just thought that was hilarious. And clearly, for a number of reasons, not just that one play, Trent Williams had a huge impact. And the 49ers loved having him back on the field.
Yeah. Business decision. That's what we call that. But you don't want to make a business decision and just look really bad on film because people will talk about it. But the guys, they'll understand.
Yeah. Hope we've got some understanding teammates. But you can't be, and our question was answered in a lot of places.
Real quick, my bad. You can't do that though. Like you can't do that. Like they will say something. I'm just saying I understand, and I probably would have, but back in my day again, you could cut a guy down. So I would have cut. That would have been my initial instinct to come outside in and chop him down. He would have landed on me. I would have felt that, but still not the same as just running into him and just letting him bulldoze you. Like that's crazy. And it was crazy when the NFL put that rule in. I'm like, what are they trying to do to these little guys? Having 350, and I wasn't even like little. I was 200 pounds. And even then, I did not want to take on a 320-pound pulling offensive lineman. So my bad. I know I cut you off.
No, it's all good. I don't know. It's not going to end well for you in that situation anyway. So what would you do? You're not going to go head on with them. You just dive at the ground, let him trip over you or something. I don't know. I don't even know what you even try to do there if you're not going to. Or most of the time, what happens is you try to run around him and you get run out of the play anyway. So.
Which maybe is what he would tell you he was trying to do. Maybe he was trying to find a path to run around him, and there was no path.
You could find a way around Big Trent. 71. Huge impact for Trent Williams in this game, and that was fun to watch. Next, Croc, I want to get into some of the Brock Purdy stuff here because Brock Purdy obviously had a really good football game. He had a number of really good throws, and statistically now top of the league and tons of stats, QBR, quarterback rating, and a whole lot more. So let's get into Brock Purdy, what we thought of his performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 10 next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Jase Medical. Don't get caught unprepared. Everyone should feel empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected, during an emergency. Jase Medical handles everything from online evaluations to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. And something that I didn't realize before is that now you can get a 1-year supply of ED medications as well at Jase Medical, not just life-saving antibiotics with your Jase case at jasemedical.com. Generics for Cialis, Viagra. And this is possible because Jase Medical, you go online right now and they have you covered with all of those things you need, up to a 12-month supply of any daily medication you or your loved ones might need. And maybe whether it is supply chain issues or natural disasters, or you're just traveling and you need that peace of mind to know that you have access to the medication you might need for your specific needs. And all you have to do is use code Locked On at checkout for a discount as well. And verified customers had this to say about Jase. Quote, I'm thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are low and local pharmacies, prices are lower than local pharmacies, and I highly recommend this for everyone. End quote. That is one verified customer about Jase. So if you or someone you love needs some peace of mind by having a year supply of any daily med, go to jasemedical.com. See if it's offered for you. Remember to use promo code Locked On for $20 off your purchase. Again, that is jasemedical.com, JASE medical.com. Use code Locked On for $20 off your purchase. Brock Purdy. Some big time numbers for Brock Purdy, Croc. We're talking about number one in the league in QBR now after 10 weeks. Number one in passer rating after 10 weeks. We've got a yards per attempt. Hold on, let me find out. There's too many now, and I've got them all listed out for Brock Purdy. Yards per attempt, right? Is that what it is? Yeah. Yards per attempt through 10 weeks. How about this though? Obviously, whether it's EPA per play, a number of efficiency stats, there's other offensive factors baked in, right? Like how good your player caller is, how good your offensive playmakers are helping you do these things, right? But it's really fascinating that Brock Purdy, 9.3 yards per attempt right now through 10 weeks in the NFL, number one in the league. Who's 2 and 3? Tua is number 2, 8.6. Number 3 is CJ Stroud, rookie CJ Stroud, 8.3. And who are the offensive coordinators, right? It's Kyle Shanahan and his last two number ones as far as who's behind him with his coordinating the San Francisco 49ers offense in Mike McDaniel and Bobby Slowick. So the Shanahan tree is strong, and the Shanahan tree is efficient right now all around the NFL.
What are they doing differently to dial up some of these plays with guys in space the way that they are? Because even when we watch Brock, right, we're talking about him being number one in a lot of categories. And watching him play, does it not look easy for him? And I'm not saying that the game is easy. Like, the NFL is hard. But is Kyle doing something to simplify it for his quarterbacks, which some get it, some don't, right? Like, we watched other quarterbacks in this offense. They were not operating at the level of Brock Purdy. But it almost feels simple. And I've heard Steve Young kind of talk about this, where he's like, if there's any offense I would want to play in this day and age, it would be Kyle Shanahan. All the answers are there. It's this and that and the spacing and the way it works in sync. Like, I just love this offense. And he's like, man, I'd be like amazing in this offense. And you watch Brock Purdy, and it doesn't look like, and this is going to come up, I know people are going to be like, Croc, you're hating. I'm not hating. I'm just telling you, when I watch him, it doesn't look like super high level difficulty. Is just over and over, 9 times out of 10, making the right decision. And then on the 1 time out of 10 where either he doesn't make the right decision or it's not there, he like buys time, makes a play, then he throws the ball to the right spot. Like, he's continuing to do this. And I think that's why we see such a high level of efficiency there. But it's so weird to watch, because, I saw somebody on Twitter and they were talking about, oh man, he's elite. And when I watch him, it's like, I don't see an elite quarterback, but he's definitely giving us elite results. Yeah. It's so odd. Like, the oddest thing. And this isn't because he's a 7th round pick or anything like that, but just watching him, I don't see like, how do you stop Brock Purdy? Like, you got a game plan for him, but maybe that is how people have to start looking at it, because he's doing something to this extent that is pretty dang remarkable.
Yeah. It's you have to game plan for the offense, not necessarily Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy's done such an amazing job. The thing he's done at elite level is putting the ball where it needs to be, especially in the intermediate area of the field. Just unbelievable. He's, near 70%, 68.8% passing so far on the year. Mentioned the 9.3 yards per attempt, which is 1 in the league, 109.9 passer rating. That's a huge passer rating. He's one of 6 quarterbacks right now that are above 100 in passer rating in the NFL. He's so calm. He's got the guts to make throws in tight windows, to throw with anticipation, trusting his guys are going to be there. We saw the play where he rolled out and threw a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk, and Kyle Shanahan said it was his worst play of the game. And but he threw a touchdown on it. And maybe it's ill-advised to throw back across the field, but guess what? He put it where only his guy could get it, and it wasn't by very much. And you don't want to attempt passes like that a lot, but he made the play happen. And it's not like it was an accident. It wasn't like it was like, oh man, that was an interception, got batted into the hands of Brandon Ayuk. No, his guy is the guy that was able to make that play because of where he put it. So but you can't ignore that there is other things happening in the offense, and it's as witnessed by Tua and CJ Stroud. And I would say for all three of those quarterbacks, things are looking almost too easy. And so something is happening in the offense that allows that to happen. There are answers for these quarterbacks, and they've all coached together, so it can't be that much of a coincidence. But also these quarterbacks are doing things on their own at a high level, and you've seen other quarterbacks in the systems and in other coaching or other branches of that coaching tree not make it look that easy. So you have to credit the quarterbacks for what they're doing as well.
I'd say if you break down what you would want your quarterback to do or be in an offense to its simplest form, right? Like just be accurate, play on time, make the right reads and throws that are theirs. Like he's doing those things. So I guess if you're doing all those things and you're doing that at a high level, maybe you are an elite quarterback. But I think how we've been conditioned to think about what an elite quarterback looks like, you don't see that from Brock, just in the sense of maybe it's the lack of size or just some of the throws that he has or doesn't have to make. And I think that's the part that it's almost like reconditioning everything that you thought you knew about something before. Like, it could be with me with, weightlifting and trying to like add on muscle, right? We're so conditioned to think like, oh man, you want to get cut up and ripped up and you want to lose weight and, lift weights. And then I learned like, no, man, if you want to really pack on muscle, you have to eat more, like way more than you've eaten before. Try to eat a little leaner, but some people do it in a dirty bulk, lift really heavy, and then you'll pack on weight, then try to cut back from there. And I'm kind of in that process right now. I'm like, man, this is different because it feels wrong. And I think that's kind of like watching Brock play quarterback, where it's different than what we've been told through social media, what the quarterback is supposed to look like. And if you break it down to the simplest form, again, like he's doing those things at the highest level. So maybe Brock Purdy is elite.
And it's just fun to watch because of how often the ball is put accurately. You see the ball go in the air, you're like, man, where's that throw going? And you're going, oh, it's going to the perfect spot on the throw to Ayuk, right? It's crossing going to the right sideline, and he just puts it right in that perfect spot, perfect trajectory, layered throws. And it's really fun to watch. And it's really fun to watch with the 49ers offense because they have so many different players that can do so many different things. You see him spread around, and the guy that's been record setting for how many touchdowns he scored for the 49ers doesn't score, but everybody else on the offense does. And that's what the 49ers can do to you. And it helps that, and I think we're seeing this a little bit with the Texans, who are playing in front of the sticks maybe a little bit more than people expected. Definitely seen it with the Dolphins, and probably no more team doing it than the Niners, especially in all of their wins, is the complementary way that they play, third and manageable situations, and running the football well, and playing that complementary brand of football. And that's one of the things the 49ers got back to in this game. You have the lead, and then you can do a lot and do what you want, rather than when the 49ers got behind, maybe pressing a little bit, and it starts to make everything else a little bit more difficult for you.
So that's the one thing, right? And again, we're watching him, we're seeing him do all these things at an extremely high level. We do have to kind of go back to those moments where now we kind of need you to be the guy, and we've seen turnovers and the 49ers not come out on top, right? So when it is a less than ideal situation, and maybe that's the last thing for him to be more of an elite quarterback, like, that guy that we saw Sunday, because you and I have said, Brock doesn't look much different than what we've seen before. Like during the losing streak, a lot of people were like down on him and he's doing it. We're like, why are you guys tripping like this? It looks the same outside of one or two throws, but 98% of the rest of the game is like, that's Brock, and he's still making those anticipatory throws and hitting all levels, etc. All right. But when the game is tighter. And that's what we've seen from the difference between like Stroud, right? Like Stroud, I've been watching him the last few weeks in pressure-packed situations. Like time and time again, you have to make the throws to win the game. You got to be the reason. Your defense is giving up points. They're not holding opposing teams to 3 points in games. Like you have to do way more. And then it's like he just throw after throw, touchdown, game-winning drive, put you in field goal. Like he's doing these things consistently now. And Brock, when he's had those opportunities, especially when the defense was less than ideal, I don't want to say crumbled because that's not what it felt like I was watching, but he definitely didn't deliver the way you would like to see him do in that moment. So that's the one thing that we are looking to see. Hey, we said that it wasn't your fault you didn't play in those situations before. You know, it wasn't your fault that the 49ers defense was number one last year, you know, in takeaways and in defense while you were quarterback. Like that's not your fault. You have George Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, all these guys. But in the, you know, in a situation that you don't have all that, what does the start to look like? And not taking everything away, but hey, you don't got Debo. All right, your defense isn't playing exceptionally well. What does it look like then? I think we're still kind of waiting for him to answer that part of the question before we say he's elite. So I'm talking through this with Peacock and with the fans, trying to see exactly, okay, what are we seeing here? I think that's the one thing that he's kind of missing right now, outside of the social media throws.
And we're still learning, and we're barely getting to the point where he's played a full season of football combined now throughout his NFL career. So, and we'll keep learning more about Brock Purdy, and it's been fun to watch, man. But there's definitely no glossing over the fact that this is the best quarterback play we've seen with Kyle Shanahan's 49ers. And I think it's by a pretty significant margin, even though you go back and Garoppolo's numbers, efficiency high in EPA per play, and even yards per attempt, even though he's not a guy who's throwing the ball down the field. So there's a lot of offense baked into the pure stats. When everything's working together, that's when Kyle Shanahan's offense is really clicking. And that's what we saw in this game. And the defense is a huge part of that too, Croc. You mentioned it. Let's talk about that defense getting pressure with the front four and what that meant for the 49ers on Sunday next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins that first $5 money line bet. And then you can utilize that extra $150 in bonus bets to bet on spreads, player props, over-unders, build your own parlay at FanDuel. The app is super easy to use, such a wide range of betting options, not only NFL football, but NBA basketball, NHL, motorsports, combat sports. You can find it all at FanDuel. And right now, our listeners at FanDuel.com/LockedOn can get that $150 in bonus bets with that winning first $5 money line bet. So again, go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get going in the second half of the NFL season. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. Speaking of that defense, Croc, let's get into this because the numbers are pretty fascinating there as well. And one thing the 49ers have always done in this regime is get pressure with the front four, and it makes things easier on the back end. So I want to know what your thoughts are on the change up the 49ers made on the back end with Isaiah Oliver hitting the bench, moving Demo inside, Diamador Lenore playing that nickel cornerback spot, and then Ambry Thomas, who made some plays and got his touchdown taken away from him because half the team was on the field, which if that was a close game, I think that'd be a coaching point. But Kyle Shanahan was one of them. So it's hard to point fingers at anybody else when your head coach is one of the guys on the field that's getting flagged, taking away this long defensive touchdown. The 49ers ended up driving back down the field anyway. But it's pretty remarkable. This game was won not only because of how efficient Brock Purdy and the 49ers were, not because of all the playmakers everywhere, but because up front the 49ers won. And some of that is because the offensive line of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and there's a reason the Jaguars throw the ball so quickly, throwing so many screens. They've got some problems up front, and that's what's going to do this team in, I think, in Jacksonville after watching this game. And I already knew it. And Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars, when we were doing our crossover, he's like, well, the ball's going to come out quick because they can't protect Trevor Lawrence. And that's what we saw in this game. And Brock Purdy was only pressured on, or actually Brock Purdy was pressured quite a bit in this game. And he still made a bunch of plays. So if you want to talk about something that Brock Purdy does at an elite level, here's this from Nick Wagner. Purdy was pressured on a career high 50% of his dropbacks, including that one touchdown to George Kittle. There was pass rushers in his face. He was even hit a little bit. You worry about the elbow. He made a beautiful throw there, got the ball out where it needed to go, but he still threw for that career high 143 yards when pressured, going 8 of 12 with 2 touchdowns on those passes. And he has 8 touchdowns and 1 interception when pressured in his career. So pressure. There's a reason why he has the nickname BCB. And I think one of those things is because of how he deals with pressure and how, and really just, I mean, how his toughness and his guts, from the moment he stepped in, he's proven that a ton. But on the other side,
real quick, I do want to ask you one question. Yeah. What are the 49ers going to do about McKivitz? I don't
draft a late first rounder in 2024. It's too late now. I mean, that's the starter. I mean, unless you move Jalen Moore over now that because Jalen Moore looked pretty good, but Jalen Moore's played so much more left tackle than right tackle. I don't know how often he practices at right tackle. He did play some snaps a couple of years ago, but I don't know. It's been probably at least 2 years since I can remember seeing Jalen Moore play at right tackle. We might see Feliciano in place of Burford at some point too. But yeah, the right side of the offensive line is clearly one of the bigger weaknesses on the team right now.
Yeah, I think McKivitz is an issue for real. Like, he's getting blown up. Burford has been, super up and down. And I try not to complain too much about offensive linemen because I just know around the league, offensive linemen aren't really good. But when you have one guy that's just getting bullied, and we saw this at times with McGlinchey, we're seeing it more so with McKivitz, it's just worrisome. Now, luckily, you talked about an elite trader, Brock. He hangs in there like he did on, I talked about, not seeing like all these like crazy special social media throws, but that touchdown to George Kittle was gritty, right? Like, just pressure all around you. Can't really step into your throw, get the ball out there as far as you can, and let your guy, put him in position to make a play. And he did that. Pressure was a big issue, even on that play. So hopefully they can kind of figure it out and come together. I don't know. Like you said, it just might be, wait till the draft and at the end of the first round, you get a tackle. But it is worrisome right now, to say the least. And you talk about needing to get a tackle, and a lot of people think you need to get a cornerback too. So that's when it starts to, come down to, got to pick your poison. Who's higher on your board? You want that corner that has just a more special ability, or you want that tackle? Yeah, big questions for the 49ers this offseason.
Right, and that's why we've seen, the 49ers lack of early picks in recent years. That's where it starts to that's where you start to see it. You have to trade at the deadline for multiple trades for pass rushers, defensive ends. You have a needed offensive tackle, cornerbacks. Those are all things that are drafted very high in the NFL usually, and the 49ers haven't picked a lot in the first and second round recently, or third round, until, towards pick 100. And the Niners are going to have 3 picks inside the top 100 this year. 49ers defense, they only blitzed on 8% of Jaguars dropbacks in this game. They averaged 23% blitz rate, only 8% in this game, but still got pressure on 31% of those dropbacks, which is up from 26%. So, and obviously the pressure is what got to Trevor Lawrence. There was the fumble and strip sack. There was 2 interceptions, and Lawrence was only 1 of 6 in those plays where he attempted a pass when he was under pressure by the 49ers. So, and Trevor Lawrence was in total pressured on 16 of his 36 dropbacks, even though he was only blitzed 3 times. So getting pressure up front. Chase Young, early returns are good, but everybody played better. I don't think you can even point to just Chase Young. Energy was high. The pass rush was good. I think part of it is the other guys too. And I think that's the weakness of the Jaguars. Speaking of a lot of teams that need offensive linemen, they've got some problems up front as well. That's a recipe for disaster if you're getting pressured that much, and you're getting pressured with only 4. Then you can do what you want to do with coverage in the back end as well.
I think ideally that's how the 49ers want to play, and that's a recipe for success. Being able to rush 4 and it feels like a blitz, like that's when you're at your best, because now, Again, the quarterback being pressured, moving him off of his spot, speeding up his time clock, making him throw before he truly wants to. That's when you start to see the errant passes, or him rushing, and then the ball's not in a great spot, goes off of somebody's hands, ends up being an interception. We saw that on Sunday, and start to feel like 49ers defense again. So I don't know if it's as simple as you add Chase Young, and all of a sudden you're getting the great return already, and it's like, do we need to start talking contract negotiations with him, or franchise tag, or is it just as simple as, hey, everybody just beat up on a bad Jaguars offensive line, which, like you said, Wiggins said was not good. So, do we pump the brakes on how well the D line played and see, hey, can you do it again next week against Tampa? And then maybe you start to see some consistency there, as opposed to what we saw through the first, 8 games of the season.
One more note before we go on Brock Purdy that I didn't mention yet, and this was put out from the 49ers official Twitter account, is that congratulations to Brock Purdy. He joins Kurt Warner as the only other quarterback in NFL history to have 3 games with 3+ touchdown passes and a passer rating of 140+ in their first 2 seasons. So Brock Purdy is doing some pretty special things right now, and the 49ers playing at a level that they look like they were playing at the first 5 weeks. And Croc, when the 49ers are playing like they did on Sunday, they're the best team in the NFL.
They'll be extremely difficult to beat, and if you are a betting person, jump on those odds right now while they might be slightly lower, because you beat Tampa Bay, you go and you got to play Thursday night football against Seattle. You win that game, I think their odds start creeping up again.
Yeah, we might have to start talking about that that trap game again too, because looking ahead to the short week, to Thanksgiving, to the Seattle Seahawks, you got one in between, and we're gonna
got that Tampa Bay game. And Mike Evans looking good. Hey, we keep talking about needing that downfield receiver and that big body guy. He definitely doesn't feel like a Kyle Shanahan type receiver, but golly, like Mike Evans is still killing it. Like, he is killing it right now for somebody that the Tampa Bay is like, yeah, we're just going to kind of cut off contract negotiations with you, and essentially you'll be a free agent at the end of the year. It's like, yeah, let him be a free agent, please.
Ooh, Mike Evans is throwing in the mix. I like that. I like the sound of that. Thank you, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And we, of course, will be back tomorrow with the Winkstradamus right here, Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.